morning, everybody. I'm calling from Nigeria. I'm in Port Harcourt, and I'm here to present a paper on stressors and counseling needs of undergraduate nursing students in Osogbo, Nigeria. As you can see, stress in itself is not a bad thing. Stress is that particular relationship between the person and the environment, and the way the person appraises the environment, whether it is taxing or exceeding his or her resources or endangering the person's well-being. That's what stress is all about. But like I said, it is not always negative. Stress in some circumstances can help the students to be motivated, can enhance their performance. But however, if the stress is excessive, it will portend negative impact on the students. That's where you now see mental illness, psychological depression, and then you have dropouts in the School of Nursing. So back to our study here. The study was carried out to determine the stress level of students in the various levels of nursing education. It examined the pattern of stress among the students according to their social demographic characteristics and determined the relationship between the various coping mechanisms adopted. It also examined the overall stress score through a questionnaire-based study in a government school of nursing in Osun State. A descriptive cross-sectional study was carried out at the Osun State School of Nursing, Osogbo, Osun State. A sample of 120 students was drawn from all the classes of the school using a multi-stage sampling method of proportional allocation. The students are up to 400. To achieve the objective of the study, a questionnaire was designed that contained 3 sections: social demographic data, the perceived stress scale, and the brief coping orientation for problem experiences. Data was entered into and analyzed using the SPSS version 20. Categorical variables were described using frequencies and percentages, while continuous variables were described using the measures of central tendency, and measures of dispersion, range, standard deviation were also used where appropriate. Statistical significance of difference between means was determined using students' t-test and ANOVA, and a p-value of less than 0.05 was considered statistically significant. Pearson's coefficient of correlation for quantitative variables was used to determine association between the various coping strategies and the overall stress score. Regression analysis was done using cumulative odds ordinal logistic regression with proportional odds. Now, what's the research problem? Nursing education, as we know, is a very stressful education. It exposes students to a greater level of stress when compared to other students who are doing other courses. Among other potential sources of stress, the peculiarity of the educational standard is a risk factor for higher stress levels. These peculiarities range from insecurity about clinical experience to excessive assignments and interpersonal conflicts with other nurses, especially during clinical posting. As a result of these experiences, the student nurses undergo some long-term negative changes in their physical and mental well-being, often becoming irritable, lacking concentration, academically poor, emotionally unstable, and showing truancy. Absenteeism in the students is critical because it can lead to a decline in the number of students graduating from the schools of nursing and a corresponding shortage in the number of professional nurses available to serve in the population. I give you a personal experience. When I was a student, I was the class rep who were about 127, but I tell you, at the point of graduation, we're just 45. These are some of the stresses that make students to drop out of school. This is also important because these dropouts might end up establishing quack health centers in some remote locations, claiming to the people that they are graduates. A study by Leodoro 2013 has shown that the stresses encountered by nursing students are severe enough to cause some mental health problems such as depression and anxiety. What was the methodology used? The study was carried out in the School of Nursing Osogbo. School was established by the state's Ministry of Health. Is in the capital state, it's in the southwestern part of Nigeria. The school is located inside the compound of the State Hospital at Osogbo. The study was a cross-sectional study of stress levels of nursing students in the School of Nursing Osogbo Data was collected from a representative subset of nursing students studying in the school. A sample of 120 students was selected by convenience sampling through a multi-stage sampling of proportional allocation by taking 40% of the first-year students, 20% second year, 40% third-year students. Sampling in a class was through simple random sampling using the ballot system. Informed consent obtained from all the subjects participating in the study. They were then assessed using the study questionnaire. The questionnaire consisted of 3 parts. A section, which a B and C section, which had to do with demographic data like sex, age, educational level, and religion. The B section contained the perceived stress scale, which is a 10-item scale with responses on a Likert scale, while the C section had a 28-item tool developed to evaluate the coping mechanism by students. It has responses on a Likert scale ranging from I haven't been doing this at all to I've been doing this a little bit to I've been doing this a medium amount to I've been doing this a lot. The results and discussion. The mean age of the respondents was 22.11 plus or minus 4.14 years, with the median and range being 21 and 30 years respectively. About 78% of the respondents were females and 70% Christians. Using the perceived stress scale, 48.3% of the respondents sometimes became upset because of something that happened unexpectedly. 17.5% became upset fairly often. 12.5% almost never became upset among the others. Equal number of respondents, 5.8%, never or almost never felt nervous or stressed in the last month. Others sometimes, that's about 44.2%. Fairly often, 19.2%, and very often, 25% feel nervous or stressed. There is a significant difference between the stress score of the respondents between the sexes, 16.7 versus 19.19, with a p-value of 0.0.5. Also, the proportion of the females that were stressed is significantly more than the proportion of the males, and I can explain this. In Nigeria here, the males are not pampered like the females. They're exposed to a lot of stress. If they make any mistake, they are punished, and so they've already been exposed to stress levels. So when they get to the School of Nursing, some of the stresses they face are not that difficult for them to cope with, unlike the females. There was a significant positive correlation between the stress level of the respondents and denial, behavioral disengagement, self-blame. These are some of the coping mechanisms. Some of them have denial, some of them have behavioral disengagement and self-blame. And from our results, we find that these ones are really negative coping mechanisms. The odds of respondents who practice behavioral disengagement to be highly stressed is 0.265 times that of respondents who practice other coping mechanisms. The major finding of this study is that denial, behavioral disengagement, and self-blame all positively correlate with a higher stress score using the PSS. Meanwhile, seeing a student who practices behavioral disengagement my conclusion is this: the level of stress in the population studies is relatively low when compared with the results from other studies, both locally and internationally. The various stressors identified basically as a result of lack of control over academic events, nervousness, inability to handle personal problems, and irritation. The students are already employing some coping mechanisms to combat their stress experience, and students who are practicing behavioral disengagement are highly stressed. So deliberately seeking out these students for proper counseling could help prevent unpleasant life events later in the course of their study. The Nursing Education Authority should look into these stressors with a view to finding ways of mitigating them, thereby providing an optimum learning environment for the students. While on another scale, we can do a larger study that will include everybody in the southwestern region of this country. That will give us a better perspective of what's happening.